I'm going to share with you the secrets behind how we helped our client achieve a milestone that only a tiny fraction of companies and influencers ever reach. 100 million views in just 1 year. That's right, more than 100 million views. Achieving this wasn't just a lucky accident, but a result of following a few core principles that anyone can use to grow their audience and succeed online. In this video, we're going to reveal the 6 most important things that we did to enable our client to exceed 100 million views and how you can do the same. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Steven Records, and I'm the founder of ContentThunder.com, where we help businesses and content creators maximize the reach and effectiveness of their content. I'm excited to break down what we did and to give you some valuable insights that will hopefully help you achieve your own 100 million views. Let's jump right in. So to hit 100 million, we had to ensure that we started with a sizable potential audience. It doesn't matter how great your content is if it only appeals to a small number of people in the world. Because if the audience is too small, there's just no way that you're ever going to hit 100 million views with that audience. This concept is similar to a total addressable market, which is something that founders often include in a business plan that takes into account the maximum number of potential customers in the world in order to understand how much revenue their business could potentially make. For content, instead of a total addressable market, you want to know what your total addressable audience is, or the total number of people who would be interested in the type of content that you create. For instance, it's much easier to get 100 million views for content related to food and amass a large audience because everyone in the world has to eat. But it is much harder to get there if you're only creating content for something where there's a very small niche, like the study of stamps or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that you just go super broad on everything. It's important to be able to have an audience that you resonate with and can speak to, but it's just something that is a major factor in total viewership that often gets overlooked. To give you an example of this and how we used it, for this company, we estimated that about 400 million people in the world would be interested in their content. So if an average person consumed just 10 pieces of content a year, we only need about 2.5% of that total audience to hit 100 million views. If your max potential audience is too small, there are a few things that you can do. One is to just ask, why do you need a larger audience in the first place? Sometimes you don't need to amass a huge audience to achieve what you want with your content, but in some instances, it is beneficial to address this. I'll use my channel as an example. For me and my core audience in business, the audience is actually quite small. We focus on businesses who create content that are making somewhere around $1 to $100 million in revenue a year, or they're full-time content creators that are ready to get to the next level. But because I want to help more people, even if they never work with me, I decided to create content that is broader than my core audience to include anyone interested in creating content or growing an audience. This way I can help a whole lot more people, even if I'm not making money off of them, which is a lot bigger audience as well. So one thing that I think is worth noting here is that when you go broad, you still want your content to be relevant and useful to your core audience. You don't necessarily want to go too broad to where you've lost the relevancy of the core people that you're trying to speak to. So the next thing that we did is that we created a content strategy that was based on research. Instead of trying to come up and reinvent the wheel and flying blind with content that hopefully hits or doesn't hit, we actually spent and focused the majority of our time on creating content that we knew that our audience would like and would find valuable based on whatever research was telling us. Now, I am typically using paid research tools to gather data quickly, but you can do your own research as well by just doing a search for whatever your content idea is on YouTube and then seeing how many views on average, the top results end up getting. If they end up getting a lot of views, then chances are that whatever your subject is in demand and people are wanting to know about it. We then would ensure that content stands out in one way or another, in overall quality, in the angle that we use, or whatever embellishments and things that we do in order to make that particular video stand out. Maybe we go into more detail than other people, or we answer the question faster. Those are all different ways that you can kind of approach it in order to provide valuable, useful, and unique content to your audience, even if other people are already talking about it. We simplified the content production process as much as possible. This company achieved 100 million views over the course of a 12-month period, not by some piece of content going viral, by consistently doing the right things for years. By making your content production as simple and as efficient as possible, you're far more likely to stick with it for the time that it takes to make hitting 100 million views inevitable. Here are a few ways that you can simplify your content production process. Talk about what you already know and are already doing. So this video isn't something that I needed to research and learn from scratch. I just know it because I lived it. So I could write and film this whole thing significantly faster because I already know the subject and all I'm doing is putting word to paper and then filming. Celebrity entrepreneur Gary Vee is a big proponent of this. So just write what you know and what you're already doing, and you'll be able to produce content significantly faster. You can also show what you're working on. This concept was popularized by Austin Kleon's book called Show Your Work. For this company, they had a portfolio of work that they were already creating for their customers. So they utilized that content in order to make an armory of content that they could use across all of their social platforms without having to spend extra time creating it. You'll also want to invest in any tools and processes that would make your overall content production as efficient as it possibly can be. So to produce this video, we created a setup that makes that production and post-production process super efficient. We use a preset up space so we don't have to set anything up. Certain parts we're filming off of a teleprompter in order to make the overall filming much quicker. And then we use a color card in order to get our color correction right. And we also use an external mic that is directly linked into the camera so we don't have to worry about syncing the audio afterwards. All of this ends up combining into cutting hours of production for each video that we create. So the overall efficiency of the process makes it to where being able to create content for years is significantly easier and more doable than if the whole process took much longer. To reach 100 million, we also focused on creating evergreen content. Evergreen content is the type of content that remains relevant and useful for a really long time, rather than being tied to a specific trend or event. By creating evergreen content, you can attract a consistent stream of views over a long period of time, rather than just a short burst of views around the time the content is first published. So with this approach, you focus on building a body of content over the course of several years that people will still want to watch. This ensures that your total views compounds over time. As that body of content grows, getting more views year over year becomes inevitable as well. That being said, it is useful to have a good mix of content on current events and trends that you can get a tailwind from, while also building a library of content that would continue to attract views in the long term. I like to think of trends as water. It is powerful and useful, but it's something that is hard to contain and build a lasting structure with. Whereas evergreen content is like clay. You can use it to build something huge by laying it brick by brick over time. But overall, evergreen content is a steady and certain way to drive consistent traffic to your content without having to hope and pray you go viral. We also distributed content across all relevant platforms. One thing to note is that we didn't hit 100 million views by being on one platform. By building an audience across several platforms, you get a certain percentage of total views from each platform to come up with your total view count. And the more platforms that you're on, typically that means that the faster you'll be able to get there because you're able to diversify your total audience size across all of those accounts. If you want to maximize your reach, it's actually not a good idea to focus exclusively on one social platform. That's because if your content gains traction on one platform, it will help your content gain traction on other platforms as well. It's a compounding effect where your attention spills over from one platform to the next. To do this, you want to create a core piece of content and then repurpose it to work across all the platforms that make sense for you. The core piece of content should be long form. For bloggers, this may be a blog article. For YouTubers, this would be your full-length video. From that, you would grab various portions of it to repurpose it for shorts, reels, slides, pins, tweets, emails, etc. Another point to be made here is that you want to fully maximize the reach of each piece of content that you create. So by not posting across multiple platforms, you're hindering the growth of your audience by a large margin. We also optimize their content for each platform. There are two main ways to do this. Your content should get better over time. One thing that will get you there is to regularly review the performance of your content to learn what works well and what doesn't. Taking video, for example, the number of views and the click-through rate can help you know if the titles and the thumbnails need work. Your drop-off rate at certain points in the video can tell you where things got boring or off track. Take all of this, use it, and then improve your next video using the insights and the data that you have in front of you. Each platform has its own nuances, and being aware of those differences will help you adapt your content for each platform so it reaches as many people as possible. In general, over time, your average views should be going up. If it is staying the same or declining, then there's probably room for improvement. Ultimately, focusing on creating great content that your audience loves and learning from each piece of content you publish is going to be one of the most effective activities that you can do to grow your audience. My hope is that these tips are an invaluable resource to you in growing your audience and getting more views than you ever thought possible. If this has been helpful to you or you have more to add to the conversation, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching.